A giant alligator waits silently in the dark. Meanwhile, Haley focuses intensely on her swimming competition. She glides through the water with incredible speed. Her powerful strokes push her toward the finish. Later, a locker room television broadcasts a warning. A Category 5 hurricane is approaching Florida fast. She quickly packs her bags to head home. She drives through the worsening storm without hesitation. A police officer warns her about flooded roads. He insists she must turn around for safety. Ignoring him, she takes an unpaved dirt path. Her SUV struggles through the heavy, muddy terrain. She eventually reaches her old, flooded family home. Memories of her father coaching her flash back. He always encouraged her to swim much faster. Back in the present, she tries calling him. He still isn't answering any of her calls. She continues driving deeper into the evacuation zone. The street is completely submerged under rising water. She wades through the flood to their house. She enters the living room, shouting his name. The house is empty, with wind howling outside. She looks anxiously through the rain-streaked windowpane. She secures the heavy sliding glass door shut. She finally spots their family dog hiding nearby, finding his abandoned phone near the kitchen sink. She realizes he must be down below somewhere. She makes her way into the dark garage. She pushes the heavy door open to search. She slowly descends the wooden basement stairs cautiously. She scans the flooded crawl space with her flashlight. She kneels into the thick, disgusting brown mud. She crawls deeper into the tight, terrifying space. Her flashlight barely pierces the heavy, gloomy darkness. An old tarp hangs menacingly in her path. She pushes past it, continuing her desperate search. She suddenly finds a body lying completely still. It is her father, bleeding heavily from wounds. He is deeply unconscious and in terrible condition. She desperately grabs the tarp to pull him. She drags his heavy body through the mud. She pauses, hearing a strange splash nearby her. She stares in pure terror at the darkness. Her dad remains totally unresponsive on the ground. A giant gator suddenly attacks out of nowhere. Outside, the neighborhood continues flooding very rapidly now. Water begins pouring heavily into the neighborhood streets. She manages to hide safely behind some pipes. She tends to her father's severe leg wound. He groans loudly as he finally regains consciousness. He tells her that apex predators are everywhere. He warns her that they must stay quiet. He leans weakly against the cold brick wall. He looks completely exhausted and ready to give up. They are completely trapped behind the metal pipes. She stares nervously into the murky, dark water. She crawls out slightly to check for danger. She flashes her light across the empty space. She decides to go find her dropped phone. She spots it glowing faintly in the mud. Her dad watches her go with intense worrying. She cowers behind a thick concrete pillar quietly. She frantically dials emergency services on her phone. The gator lunges at her with terrifying speed. She scrambles backward, kicking up thick, brown mud. She barely escapes the beast's snapping, powerful jaws. She pulls herself quickly behind the safety pipes. She loses a screwdriver in the chaotic scramble. The gator attacks again, nearly biting her arm. She stares directly into its terrifying, razor-sharp teeth. The massive jaws snap shut just inches away. She cries out in terror and sheer exhaustion. She slumps against the wall, breathing very heavily. Her dad lies weakly on the wet ground. He tries to stay awake despite massive blood loss. She fixes her broken flashlight by smacking it. She places it in her mouth to see. An old radio begins sparking in the water. The basement is filling up very rapidly now. Her dad grabs the light to check around. He scans the dark water for any movement. He tightens the makeshift tourniquet on his leg. He groans as he twists the fabric tighter. She wades deeper into the rising, dirty water. She searches for another way to escape upstairs. Outside, looters steal an ATM from a store. They push it onto their small motorboat. They navigate the flooded streets in heavy rain. They have no idea what lurks beneath them. The water level in the basement keeps rising. She looks out the vent window, seeing looters. She screams at them, begging for their help. A looter wades through the flooded convenience store. He trips and falls into the deep water. A massive gator attacks him inside the store. She watches horrified as the water turns red. She turns back to the dark, flooded basement. She shines her light, looking for another exit. Her dad looks completely defeated and exhausted now. She realizes they have to swim out soon. The terrifying ordeal reaches its climax. She scrambles onto the kitchen counters. Floodwaters rapidly engulf the entire house. Her dad desperately lights a flare. He gets dragged violently underwater. She watches the horrific attack helplessly. A massive gator ambushes him below. She swims away in pure panic. The murky water hides deadly predators. Trapped, she tries breaking the ceiling. She frantically waves at a helicopter. Blood quickly fills the dark water. He struggles against the giant reptile. They barely escape onto floating debris. Their faithful dog waits in rain. Both collapse exhausted on the roof. This nightmare all started much earlier. A flashback reveals her swimming past. Her father used to coach her. The athletes prepare for the race. She focuses intensely on the competition. They dive into the pool quickly. She pushes herself to the limit. Her teammates anxiously watch the race. She finished but realizes she lost. Young Haley cries over her defeat. Her father tries to comfort her. Back to prison, she gets ready. Her sister calls with a warning. She packs up her locker quickly. The storm warning grows more urgent. She drives out into the hurricane. Heavy rain lashes against her car. She remains determined to find him. The weather steadily worsens around her. A police officer blocks her path. He orders her to turn around. She shows him a family photo. Ignoring warnings, she takes a detour. She drives through heavily flooded streets. The treacherous journey tests her resolve. She arrives at his old house. She brings her dog inside safely. Another flashback of her swimming days. She looks at an old photo. She tries to call his phone. Finding his phone increases her panic. She quickly searches the empty kitchen. The dog waits patiently by her. She drives to his other house. The floodwaters there are much deeper. She pulls up to the property. The dark hallway looks completely abandoned. She cautiously walks through the house. The eerie silence puts her on edge. Rain batters the windows from outside. She thoroughly checks the empty kitchen. Outside, the swing set blows in wind. She tries calling him once more. She searches frantically for any clue. His tool bag sits abandoned on floor. The kitchen offers no clear answers. She grows increasingly anxious and scared. The dog leads her to stairs. She shines a light down below. The dog refuses to follow her. The crawl space is dark and flooded. She crawls into the muddy dirt. Moving deeper, she searches the shadows. A dropped screwdriver catches her eye. She cautiously explores the flooded maze. Suddenly, she screams in sheer terror. She discovers her father lying unconscious. A massive bite wound covers him. She frantically tries to wake him. She drags him onto a tarp. Pulling him through mud is exhausting. She uses all her remaining strength. Fear drives her to move faster. She slowly drags him to safety. A giant gator appears right behind. Its massive jaws snap at them. She stares at the deadly predator. The murky water conceals its movements. She looks around for an escape. Her father finally regains his consciousness. He groans in agonizing, unbearable pain. He tries to assess his injuries. He warns her about the gators. They realize they are completely trapped. He begs her to save herself. She absolutely refuses to abandon him. She devises a desperate escape plan. Her determination overrides her intense fear. She crawls away to find help. Sneaking past the gator is terrifying. She carefully navigates the tight space. The floodwater continues to rise quickly. She crawls silently through the mud. She pauses to check her surroundings. She flashes her light to get their attention. But the looters ignore her cries for help. She stares in disbelief as they drive away. Suddenly, a massive gator approaches the oblivious men. The beast violently drags one thief underwater. Dave watches the horrific attack from the shadows. He realizes they are trapped with these monsters. Haley tries to find another way out. Dave desperately searches the ceiling for an escape, but his severe injuries slow him down. She holds the flashlight to keep her hands free. The terrifying situation finally brings her to tears. The rising water slowly fills the dark basement. She leans against the wall to catch her breath. Dave struggles to move through the murky water. She fears the predators are getting closer. She carefully navigates around the heavy pipes. Dave tries to clear a path for them. A radio sits uselessly above the rising flood. The water level continues to climb relentlessly. Outside, the storm rages around the gas station. The remaining looters try to steal an ATM. They struggle to move it in the storm. One thief happily grabs snacks inside the store. Meanwhile, the dark basement remains a deadly trap. An unseen gator swims silently beneath the surface. The thief outside suddenly senses danger approaching. Inside, the other looter turns around in fear. He desperately tries to escape the flooded store. Haley watches the terrifying events unfold through a crack. Dave waits anxiously in the rising water. She keeps the light focused on the danger. Dave struggles to manage his painful wounds. She silently prays for a miracle to happen. She moves carefully to avoid making noise. She shines her flashlight to check the ceiling. Suddenly, she screams as a gator lunges at her. She narrowly avoids the beast's snapping jaws. Dave knows their time is running out. She tries to warn him about the beast. He grabs a tool to defend himself. The basement pipes creak under the house's weight. Just then, a police boat arrives outside. She desperately tries to reach the trapdoor to signal them, but a massive gator is already lurking below. She hides beneath the floor to stay undetected. She shines her light to guide the officers. The police boat bobs in the stormy water. She watches the officers carefully approach the house. Suddenly, one officer is violently pulled into the water. The gator thrashes wildly, tearing him apart. She watches the horrifying scene in pure shock. The water turns red as the officer dies. Dave comforts his terrified daughter in the dark. They realize no one is left to save them. She looks around, determined to find a way out. She cries, knowing she must face the monsters alone. She tells her father she will get them out. Dave refuses to let her risk her life, but she insists they have no other choice. He points out the old storm drain pipe. It might be their only path to safety. She quietly slips into the murky water. Dave watches nervously as she swims away. A gator swims dangerously close to her path. Dave tries to distract the beast from afar. The water churns violently around the deadly predators. She moves slowly to avoid splashing the surface. The gator glides smoothly through the flooded basement. Dave panics as the creature swims closer. She holds her breath, swimming as fast as possible. She finally spots the entrance to the drain pipe. She looks toward the pipe, preparing to enter. She crawls through the mud to reach it. She checks behind her to ensure it's safe. Suddenly, she spots unhatched eggs floating nearby. She realizes she has entered the gator's nest. The mother gator attacks to protect her young. The beast bites her arm, causing excruciating pain. She desperately crawls away from the furious mother. She frantically shoves herself into the narrow pipe. The tight space prevents the gator from following. Dave struggles to keep his head above water. The pipe offers a brief moment of safety. She catches her breath in the cramped space. The violent hurricane continues to batter the neighborhood. Inside the house, she tries to find supplies. Dave stares helplessly as the situation worsens. His bloody hand rests weakly on the wooden floor. The floodwaters rise dangerously high around the house. Another massive gator crashes into the living room. She screams as the beast lunges toward her. Dave lies paralyzed with fear on the floor. The water bursts through the windows, flooding the upstairs. The rushing water tears through the entire house. Dave balances on a piece of floating furniture. She urgently calls for rescue on the radio. Their dog bravely swims through the flooded house. She waits on the floating debris for help. Beneath them, the deadly gators continue to circle. She watches the relentless storm batter the house. Water suddenly begins surging from the bathroom fixtures. Haley frantically tends to her injured father inside. The violent floodwaters quickly invade their fragile shelter. She desperately tightens a tourniquet on his wound. A massive alligator glides silently beneath the surface. She clings to the roof to avoid it. Dave lies gasping in the freezing, pouring rain. A helicopter spotlight cuts through the raging hurricane. He remains severely wounded on the slippery shingles. Darkness soon consumes their fleeting moment of hope. She bravely descends into the creepy, dark crawlspace. Haley creeps forward with her trusty small flashlight. Navigating the tight, flooded space becomes a nightmare. She carefully investigates an old cage left behind. Haley crawls forward to survey the grim situation. She spots a useful screwdriver discarded nearby. She peers through the gloomy basement's structural beams. A sudden noise makes her scream in terror. She struggles to stay above the churning water. She finally locates Dave lying entirely unresponsive. Haley shines the light on his broken body. She carefully covers him with a heavy tarp. She cautiously peeks through the narrow metal grating. Wires dangle dangerously across the tiny escape route. She grabs the tarp to drag him forward. Pulling his dead weight proves incredibly exhausting. Haley strains against the rapidly rising floodwaters. A colossal gator completely blocks their only exit. She freezes while staring at the deadly predator. Outside, the entire street is swallowed by water. Haley looks up desperately, searching for another way. She notices a small gap in the darkness. Dave lies motionless in the freezing cold mud. She forcefully ties a protective strap around him. His blooded face remains terribly pale and still. She urgently shakes him to wake him up. He finally groans while barely clinging to life. Dave slumps his head back against the wall. She anxiously asks him what they should do. His horrific leg wound looks critically infected now. She realizes they must keep moving immediately anyway. Dave stares back with a grim, defeated look. She ventures further into the treacherous, flooded basement. A sudden, ominous noise makes her whip around. Haley crouches low to skim the black water. She spots another huge reptile lurking very nearby. The frail house groans under the storm's pressure. Dave waits helplessly hidden in the deep shadows. Haley peers cautiously through a narrow wooden slat. She holds her breath while gripping the flashlight. The terrifying reality of their trap sets in. The giant gator's snout slides slowly into view. It suddenly thrashes forward through the murky water. Haley recoils backwards, terrified by the close call. Dave struggles to pull his broken body away. She clutches her flashlight like a defensive weapon. She tries to stay completely silent and still. Dave manages to grab a small emergency radio. The second gator swims right past her spot. She ties the torn tourniquet tighter around him. The relentless storm rages violently outside the house. Dave waits in agonizing pain in the darkness. She frantically signals him with her small light. Haley's face is stained with mud and terror. Dave drags himself carefully through the rising flood. He painfully hooks his foot on a pipe. He gasps as the pain overwhelms his senses. Haley watches the harrowing scene unfold in horror. She searches frantically for anything to help him. Meanwhile, a nearby gas station is completely flooded. Looters navigate a small boat to the entrance. They park right beside the submerged gas pumps. The hurricane continues to decimate the entire town. An alligator swims stealthily directly beneath their boat. One looter nervously stands guard in the rain. His partner starts blindly grabbing whatever he can. He suddenly stops after hearing a terrifying splash. Haley watches the tragic scene from her window. Dave stays completely still in the murky water. She shines her light to warn the men. But the distance makes her desperate warning useless. She huddles nervously against the cold brick wall. A massive scaly tail brushes right past her. She grips a metal bar tightly above her. Haley's mind races for any possible escape plan. She glances toward the narrow, dark basement stairs. An alligator viciously attacks the metal pipes nearby. Haley yells out as the water violently jumps. Furious whines tear the roof off a house. Dave hides beneath the floorboards while barely breathing. Rescue boats finally start patrolling the flooded streets. A bright spotlight shines into the dark house. The giant alligator circles while waiting for prey. A rescuer cautiously enters the highly dangerous ruins. The reptile moves silently toward the new arrival. The rescue boat idles just outside the window. He shines his light deeper into the room. He suddenly falls into the treacherous churning water. The remaining rescuers panic in the torrential rain. The deadly floodwaters ripple silently through the dark basement. A massive gator splashes violently in the bloody pool. The predator stealthily swims away into the shadows. Dave desperately holds his terrified daughter Haley above the surface. She scans the terrifying darkness for any sign of escape. Panic sets in as the water level continues to rise. Haley gasps as another threat seems to approach them. Dave rests his weary head against the cold brick wall. He comforts Haley as she breaks down in tears. He insists they must keep fighting to survive this nightmare. Gathering her courage, Haley prepares to make a move. She cautiously crawls under the low, rusted pipes. Another distant splash warns of more predators lurking nearby. A scaly beast glides silently through the murky depths. Dave nervously watches her progress from his hidden spot. Haley swims as quietly as possible to avoid detection. She spots a faint glimmer of light filtering through the debris. But another massive gator emerges from the murky green water. Dave splashes wildly to distract the beast from his daughter. From the stairs, Sugar the dog barks at the commotion. Haley finds a dark, flooded drain pipe offering a narrow escape. She shines her flashlight into the ominous tunnel. Wading through the water, she discovers the horrific gator nest. She spots a deceased police officer's gun among the mud. Steeling herself, she reaches out to grab the weapon. The dark drain pipe looms ahead as her only way out. She carefully touches the bloody wounds on her injured body. Dave continues to splash, drawing the creatures away. Haley surveys the nest, making sure the mother isn't near. She bravely enters the claustrophobic drain pipe. Swimming through the narrow tube is a terrifying ordeal. Dave groans in agony, leaning his head back. A metal grate blocks the exit of the flooded pipe. Haley looks up in despair at the trapped dead end. She swims back out, desperate to find another route. A vicious gator thrashes wildly in the confined space. Dave is dragged violently underwater by the massive reptile. Surviving the attack, Haley frantically bandages his severed arm. His detached hand lies discarded on the flooded floorboards. Outside, the torrential hurricane continues to ravage the town. Floodwaters pour relentlessly into the ruined living room. Dave collapses onto the floor, completely exhausted and bleeding. Suddenly, a gator bursts through the weakened floorboards. He splashes frantically to fend off the sudden ambush. Haley watches in horror from behind a pillar. Dave stands on an overturned boat, fighting with a shovel. Haley screams into a police radio, begging for help. A monstrous gator circles ominously in the deep water. The beast drags Dave down into a pool of crimson. It swims into the flooded bathroom, seeking its next meal. Haley presses against the shower door, holding her breath. In the darkness, Dave hands her a critical tool. She grabs Sugar the dog, determined to save him too. She hurls an object to distract the approaching predator. A bright red flare illuminates the murky underwater chaos. She desperately clings to the edge of a broken window. Exhausted, she collapses onto the sloping roof in the pouring rain. A rescue helicopter's spotlight pierces through the stormy night. Dave lies beside her, barely alive but finally safe. This harrowing survival story actually began much earlier. Before the storm, Haley was a dedicated collegiate swimmer. Her father Dave had always been her strict, demanding coach. She prepares for her race, laser-focused on winning. Staring down the lane, she visualizes the perfect swim. She dives in, her powerful strokes cutting through the water. Her intense focus pushes her to swim faster than ever. The rest of the team cheers loudly from the sidelines. She touches the wall, completing her grueling practice run. Despite her effort, she feels she didn't do her best. A memory of her younger self failing haunts her thoughts. In the locker room, her teammates chat around her. She watches a video call from her sister about the storm. Worried about their stubborn dad, she quickly grabs her things. She hurries out, determined to check on him before the hurricane hits. Driving her truck through the escalating downpour, she feels anxious. She shifts gears, navigating the increasingly treacherous roads. Her eyes stay fixed on the rain-slicked highway ahead. She squints through the windshield as the visibility drops. At a barricade, a police officer warns her to turn back. He insists the evacuation zone is too dangerous to enter. Ignoring the warning, she drives her truck right past him. Her headlights cut through the heavy, torrential rain. She arrives at Dave's old condo, hoping to find him. She steers carefully, worried about the rising floodwaters. Approaching his door, she calls out into the storm. She enters the dark, empty apartment, finding no sign of him. The memory of her intense swimming training flashes back. She feels a deep sense of dread creeping in. An old family photo reminds her of happier times. She looks at her phone, trying to reach him again. Standing in his kitchen, she realizes he went to their old family home. Sugar the dog waits anxiously in the passenger seat. She drives back into the heart of the hurricane. The wind aggressively tears through the evacuated neighborhood. Floodwaters have already submerged the streets and lawns. She steps into their old gloomy house, flashlight in hand. The eerie silence is broken only by the howling wind. She spots something deeply unsettling in the hallway. Cautiously, she moves further into the abandoned home. Little does she know the nightmare that awaits her below. The violent storm quickly floods the entire neighborhood. Inside, she frantically tries calling for emergency rescue, but her desperate pleas go completely unanswered. She soon discovers her father's scattered work tools. The flooded house offers little protection from danger. Suddenly, a chilling noise catches her immediate attention. With her loyal dog, she investigates the sound. She carefully shines a flashlight into the basement. The nervous dog senses a hidden, deadly threat. Down below, terrifying predators patiently wait in darkness.